right. But if you're buying it to get rich, and I think there was a certain amount of the people, Chris, that since 2020, silver squeeze, they started buying it to get rich. It's the wrong way. I think you and I own it because we feel it's the safest place to be. And it offers amazing potential. Yes. But I don't think you own silver to get rich. I've never asked you that. I know I don't own it to get rich. I own it because I feel it is wealth.
Well, to what you said earlier, I was thinking about when you mentioned that most of what you have is silver and gold, and I'm trying to think, do I own it? I have a guitar, that's not silver or gold, but pretty much everything I have is in that. And again, I know everyone's situation is different, so that's why I try to be straightforward and say, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I do. I can't think of what else to do in this situation. And I get it, it's developing in slow motion, and for people who are bought silver when it was 25 or $28 and see it lower, that keeps me up more at night than you would imagine. Not I was always able to, from the trading floor, handle my own gain or loss, but in either case, it's like, but at the same time, you see now Japan's doing yield curve control, and things are getting, you're reading articles about, it's like George Soros like bets that hedge funds are piling up against the yen. The Europeans, they're talking about they have new terms out this week for money printing schemes. And so I know this perhaps maybe raises more questions that it answers, but just as we were talking before we started recording today, they're not easy situations. And I think we've seen out of governments between the pandemic and all the other things that these people aren't trying to help. And then we hear about Klaus Schwab saying, well, you own nothing and like it. It's almost more of I thought I was getting into finance, and now I feel almost more like a crime investigator at times, which is, and it's tough because wanting to see silver go up, yet not sitting there rooting for, oh, well, this currency is collapsing, because there are those real world implications. And again,
I called you that once before. I called you, you are an investigative journalist. You've done more investigating and uncovering of things than anyone else in this industry that I've read for 30 years. And that's the truth. Just your interview with Bart Chilton alone, I tell almost everyone I talk to and almost every podcast I'm on that they need to search that out and listen to it. It validates everything we've been saying. And it's because of that type of information, because you brought that to the public, it allows me to sleep a lot better at night. Now, because I know in the end we'll be right. But I think one of the things people need to understand is that you're not buying what's behind you in that picture there, silver. You're not buying it to get rich. You're buying it because it's wealth. That's outlived 2 world wars, German hyperinflation, and the Great Depression, and it's still wealth, immutable wealth, and it will be when the dust settles. All signs are pointing to gold and silver expressing themselves at some point. And you don't have to look any further than just how starkly they defend the silver price, trying to keep it from fully expressing itself. Maybe it's because it's a challenger to the dollar hegemony. I don't know, to the system, to the whole Western fiat system, which is crumbling. And if it weren't for the fact that you can see the East is beginning to move away and set up infrastructure and set up currency systems and set up trading systems to move away from the dollar, it's because of that I have even more conviction that we'll be right. But if you're buying it to get rich, and I think there was a certain amount of the people, Chris, that since 2020, silver squeeze, they started buying it to get rich. It's the wrong way. I think you and I own it because we feel it's the safest place to be. And it offers amazing potential. Yes. But I don't think you own silver to get rich. I've never asked you that. I know I don't own it to get rich. I own it because I feel it is wealth, undervalued wealth, a great value as far as wealth accumulation is concerned. But if you're buying it to get rich, if you're buying it because of the undervaluation and the gold silver ratio and all these things, well, it should explode. Well, you're going to have your feelings hurt when it doesn't move the way we think. But if you own it as wealth, knowing that it's there if you need it, not just for an emergency, it could be an opportunity. Maybe there's a piece of real estate you want, or maybe markets change and there's great value in equities, or whatever it is. It's not just for an emergency. it's an opportunity as well. And if not, you have it and you give it to your family someday. So that's the way I think you need to look at gold and silver, and not as a vehicle to get wealthy, because when it fully does express itself, be careful what you wish for. It will not be good here in the US with silver at $300 an ounce. What that tells you is the dollar shit to bed. And with gold at 5,000 an ounce, it'll tell you the dollar shit to bed. You'll be right, better late than never, but it won't be something that you'll take glee in being right, in my opinion.
I hear you, and maybe that's why sometimes it's tough, because you just see a lot of things happening in the world that are far less than ideal. Although I think at least,
Which should make silver go higher. That's what makes you go crazy. But that's the reason they hold it down even more, because it should be going higher, which means the dollar should be crumbling, which means if they really looked, it's like the Wizard of Oz. They pull back the curtain like, holy shit, it's just a little old man. Same thing with the dollar. And I think that's the whole issue here, Chris. And you will be right. That's the bottom line, is you will be right.
well, I like to think so. Unfortunate the way in which that may occur, yet such is the world we live in, and we just make the best with what we can do. And either case, I appreciate you discussing this. I know people give you the same thing from time to time while he's selling his book, and you sell gold and silver, although at least I feel it's helpful to present all the different sides, how we've come to this conclusion, and then at least just let people to have that information and make the decisions which are best for themselves. So
Of course, I'm selling my book. I own a precious metals company. I'm also fully invested in it myself. I've bought it every 2 weeks for 33 years. I don't own anything else besides a handful of mining shares and gold and silver. That's it. So yeah, I'm selling my book, and I've also dedicated my life to it, and I put myself out on a limb just like you do. You put yourself out on a bigger limb than I do. I give you tons of credit for it. You're courageous as hell. But the bottom line is that, yeah, I am talking my book. I do want to continue to stay in business, but doesn't mean I don't believe in it to my core, to my soul, just like you do. You may be talking silver too, but I know for a fact what you own, and we've talked about it and I've seen it. And so you can have both. It doesn't have to be, someone who talks their book but doesn't own an ounce of silver. Now that's something that I would think twice about buying from. But someone who talks their book and has been accumulating and immersed in it more over half my life. I don't know. I am hugely emotionally invested in it as well, Chris. And the same things that you're talking about have weighed on me too. And that's why I trust you, and that's why I listen to you and follow you, because you're not full of shit. I might just say flat out, you're not. And I think that's the most important takeaway from this discussion. And when we talked about having this discussion different from what we normally do, I encourage it. I think it's great to let people see who you are and to know that you're honest and sincere. That to me makes it much easier to listen to everything that you're saying, knowing that it's coming from an honest, sincere guy who wants nothing but the best from his followers. And it's hurting that sometimes the advice that is given isn't correlated with the outcome we would expect yet. And we could explain the yet on another conversation. But for now, let's just say that you will be right. And, I'd rather be 6 months or a year and a half or 2 years early than 60 seconds late. Because one thing I will add to this, and I'll let you go, is that I think when this breaks, it's going to break so fast that if you haven't gotten at least a core position, you're screwed. And that's what I do believe. I think this will happen on a Sunday night. This will wake up to a new reality. This isn't going to be a slow burn where you have time slowly to switch out of your assets into something like gold and silver. I think it'll be like that. And that's the one thing that I don't think people are thinking about. I mean, look at that Terra as an example, or Luna stock. Look how fast it went, bang. You woke up to a new reality. That's what's going to happen here. And that's why if you don't get in before it's obvious, and that's the problem, is that you're seeing things clearly ahead. You're way out there, and that's a curse, but it's also a blessing. If you can see what other people can't see way down there, and people wait for it, bang, it's over, you're done. You have to get in the life raft before the boat springs a leak. And that's, your curse and mine. But in the end, it'll be a blessing. And so hard to deal with, Chris. I respect you immensely for having the courage to bring it up. I feel the same way, but I can tell you that from all the feedback I get from you, people appreciate the hell out of you and what you're doing. And so don't be so hard on yourself. You're doing your fellow brothers and sisters, humanity, a good favor.
Well, that's kind of you to say that. And to your previous point, I mean, the background as an option trader, we were trained to see, all right, if this happens, then that happens. And perhaps maybe I thought things would develop sooner, although you could see where this was headed, and that whatever silver is doing, that the Fed was going to be in a problematic situation, which sure enough they are, despite whether I heard Jerome Powell's press conference this week. He said he doesn't see any signs of an economic recession. Janet Yellen can't see it either. Seems like almost everyone else on the planet does.
These are the people who told us inflation was no big deal, it's just transitory. And they're full of shit.